Welcome back to this special edition of Hannity Beyond the Midterms. Joining me from Tijuana with the latest on the status of the migrant caravan right on our southern border, Fox News correspondent William Lee Janess. William?
Well, as long as the risk outweighs the reward, Governor, the administration believes this caravan will be followed by many more. That's why they are drawing a line in the sand here in Tijuana. Now, 2,000 people slept in the shelter behind me. More are expected here tomorrow, potentially up to 5,000 people from Caravan A. More caravans are already expected behind that. Now, what are the options? Well, people could go home. I haven't heard anyone say that. They can stay in here in Mexico, raise money, and hire a coyote. Several said they would do that. They could ask for asylum here in Mexico. That's been offered. They could cross illegally. Several have told me they're going to do that. Or they could claim asylum in the United States. Problem is, you can't do it anymore between the borders, right? So right now, the existing line is 1,040 people, we're told. Today, the United States took 30 asylum claims to be heard by an asylum officer. And basically the message to these people is, hey, get in line, take a number. It could take 5 weeks or several months.
I want to just get my number. If they let you, they let me give me to me. I wait. I don't know how long I'm away for.
So for many people, the reality is setting in. This could be a long haul. Now, when they left Honduras, the administration policy was catch and release. That changed when they reached Mexico City. They are also seeing for the first time the fencing, the border security, the horses, the ATVs, the helicopters, the barbed wire on top of the fence. That's formidable, giving some maybe a second thought.
We've been preparing for a couple weeks now. We've surged in resources. Department of Defense has been helping us harden the border. What that really means is using concertina wire, building obstacles, making it harder to cross between the ports of entry.
Because the shelter space here in Tijuana is stressed, they stopped several buses in Mexicali about 60 miles, 80 miles east of where I'm at right now because they can't handle the capacity. I was also told informally that there may be a sit-in along the 28 lanes of traffic that go from Tijuana into the United States. That, of course, would bring traffic and commerce to a standstill. Nothing is official here. That's just something I heard from one of the guys. They're waiting till the rest of the caravan arrives to determine what to do next. Back to you, Governor.
William Lee Janess, thank you very much. Democratic California Senator Kamala Harris, considered the top contender for the 2020 Democratic nomination for president, made an utterly reckless statement yesterday. She suggested that ICE was seen in a similar way to the Ku Klux Klan. Watch her interaction with Trump's nominee to be ICE next director.
The Klan was what we would call today a domestic terrorist group.
Why? Why would we call them domestic terrorist group?
Because they tried to use fear and force to change political environment.
And what was the motivation for the use of fear and force?
It was based on race and ethnicity.
Right. Are you aware of the perception of many about how the power and the discretion at ICE is being used to enforce the laws? And do you see any parallels?
I do not see any parallels between
I'm talking about perception.
Officers and agents.
I'm talking about perception.
I do not see a parallel.
All about perception. Perception. Not the facts, perception. Well, on this network today, former acting ICE Director Thomas Homan had a few choice words for Senator Harris in response to her appalling comments. Take a look.
For her to vilify the men and women, the 20,000 men and women that strap a gun to their hip every day, leave the security of their homes to enforce a law that Congress enacted. She's a member of Congress. If she don't like what ICE does, change the law. Or, you know what, strap a gun on your hip, put a Kevlar vest on, and go arrest somebody that doesn't want to be arrested. That's a significant criminal alien that you let out of your sanctuary jail in California that you support those sanctuary policies. Look, the men and women of ICE aren't making this up. They're doing their job. They're protecting the homeland. They're enforcing the laws that Congress enacted. And to vilify them, call them names, it's just ridiculous.
Joining me now with reaction, former Treasury intelligence analyst Morgan Ortegas, campus reform editor-in-chief Lawrence Jones, and from the Center for Immigration Studies, Jessica Vaughn. Lawrence, I'm going to jump in here with you. Are you offended by Senator Harris's comments and her comparing ICE, law enforcement officials, paid to the United States government to enforce a law, comparing them with the KKK?
Yeah, I don't think it's just insulting to me, but many of the people that fought during the civil rights movement, many of the people that fought to get 3 constitutional amendments so black people could get the rights as other Americans, it's offensive. But again, this is the tone that we've been seeing on the college campuses. Just at Seattle University, we just reported at the campus reform, at Leadership Institute's campus reform, that they are disbanding their relationship with ICE, where students could get internship credit, all because of all the negative rhetoric that's been going on in these college campuses. These are people that are trying to keep us safe. But of course, with the leftists of today, they don't care about any of that. They want to make these political and emotional statements, but there's no historical context to support what they're saying.
Jessica, let me ask you if you think that this is a little dangerous to try to tell people that a law enforcement agency is akin to a racist organization that lynched people and murdered them and denied people, American citizens, their constitutional rights. Is that a dangerous thing to implant in the minds of impressionable college students?
Oh, most definitely it is a dangerous thing. Because that undermines ICE's ability to do its job. It empowers sanctuary policies that put the public at risk because they result in the release of criminal aliens back to the streets to keep preying on the community. And it makes it difficult for ICE to do their jobs. It almost like gives like a license to challenge them when they're going about doing a job that's very important to Americans and Americans want to see done. Immigration laws are not some outdated, obsolete laws that don't deserve to be enforced anymore. They protect job opportunities for Americans, they keep Americans safe, and they protect taxpayers, and they protect our legal immigration system. So this is very wrong to undermine this important agency and its work and the people who do it.
Morgan, one of the things that we learned from William Lajeunesse was that there is a mass of people assembling up at Tijuana. And some have said, oh, this isn't going to get here for weeks, if not months. Well, they're here. So that was an outright lie for some of the newscasters to say that it had nothing to do with anything of current events. Well, it's here. What should be the response of the president, Homeland Security, and for that matter, American citizens?
So I think that we have to take a comprehensive all-of-government approach to this. And a lot of people are talking about the troops being on the border, but that is just one element of the strategy, of the national security strategy that the president's is trying to pursue. And I should say, Governor, that it's important to note that this is a national security strategy. By Mattis going down just last week to the border, I think that he gave a lot of credibility and relevance to this project. He said publicly that we don't do stunts. So in one bucket, you have our troops at the border, and they are meant there for a deterrence effect, to say, don't come here, don't invade, you have to go to the proper channels. One of the biggest things that I think we're not looking into that we have to is the fact that we have so many failed states in Central America and on our borders, and we have to look at radical new ideas for foreign aid, because the foreign aid that we have sent billions of dollars worth over decades, we haven't really looked at Central America closely pretty much since the Reagan administration. We were worried about communists. So we have to look at what is our money going to there. Is there a new comprehensive way that we could deal with these failed states? Can we take lessons from what our military and civilian services have done in Iraq and Afghanistan? And then you also have the military aspect, of course, of having that deterrence on the border.
And Lawrence, I mean, my heart is touched when I see children and I see desperate people who are, I mean, immersed in the depths of poverty that it's hard for us even to get our arms around. But a lot of the people who are in this caravan are not little children, and they're not mothers. These are young men capable of doing jobs, and they're threatening that they're going to come whether the law lets them or not. How do you separate that? Well, what is the right response?
Well, Governor, and here's the deal. It's not, a lot of us want comprehensive immigration reform, but it has to be a legal process to do that. And with respect to those young men that are on the border, a lot of them have been fighting journalists on the ground. They've been fighting Border Patrol agents. But these are the same men that won't fight for their own country. I mean, I can only put myself in their position as an American. If my country was under siege and there was an oppressive government going on, what would I do? I would fight for my country and fight for my family. For some reason, they can't do that.
And Jessica, I'll bring you back in. Do you think that there is any hope that there will be a bipartisan solution that will be offered up that will pass this divided Congress that we're about to see?
Well, it's not going to be easy, but it has to happen because we cannot continue to have this influx over our southern border. I mean, it is hard to imagine what life is like for some of these people that must have made them decide to come here. But really, the problem is our policy is enticing people to take this long trek, to put themselves in danger, to put their children in danger, to pay criminal smuggling organizations because they think that they're going to be allowed in and that they're going to be able to get away with living here for the next few years. But it's not fair to them. It's not fair to the American communities that have to absorb these new populations. Congress needs to get something done here. It can no longer allow the courts to impose these restrictions on the executive branch on how they handle an influx of families. Congress has got to get it done. There's only so much President Trump can do on his own. And they're just going to have to find a way to get it done.
I've got to get Morgan back in. Morgan, optimistic or pessimistic as to whether Congress will actually do something? You've lived in this town a long time. You've been in the government. You know it well.
Well, luckily, I live in New York City. I'm not sure that's any better. But what I'll say is I think that your friend, Senator Lindsey Graham, has proposed an interesting deal, which I think could maybe get done, which is trading DACA for the border wall and getting the president's wall. I think it'll be very difficult for the president to go into 2020 without having built the wall. He does have some funding for it. So I think that short-term solution that Senator Graham has proposed could be a win-win for the president.
Well, let's hope it can be. Up next, Press Secretary Sarah Sanders is going to join us for a live one-on-one interview.